Welcome, 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 Godfather, Gorney podcast. Let's jump into it. Auburn, Ole Miss, I want to talk about. Lane Kiffin's going to pay his fine in pennies. Did you see that?
Yeah, but then he miscalculated how many pennies he had to send.
It's a lot of calculating. That's math, man. But I thought it was funny. He obviously gave the officials hell and tweeted. I guess that was the problem. That's why he got the fine. But he, rightfully so. Sean Shivers touched the ball, it appeared, and Ole Miss got screwed a bit. So I don't know if he should have been fined. I don't mind coaches going on Twitter and bashing officials, but I get it. These officials, they don't make a lot of money. And there's not a lot of reward for this job. So, they got to back their SEC officiating crew. But what did you see in that game?
Well, I'll tell you that I have I don't feel bad for the officials at all. These are $1 million decisions that they're making. When Lane Kiffin is on the hot seat in 2 years, the Ole Miss administration is not going to look back and say, well, if the referee made the right call on that play, he wouldn't be on the hot seat now. And it's much like umpires making bad calls in the strike zone in the World Series or in any baseball game. These are millionaires that have contracts to sign and to live up to. And when the umpires screw it up or the refs screw it up, which they obviously did, and I don't think Ole Miss got screwed a little bit. They got screwed a ton. I mean, Travers touched the ball. The ball was in the end zone. They recovered it in the end zone. It should have been a touchdown. That would have changed the entire course of the game. And the SEC officiating crew didn't even review the play. So
let me ask you this. Okay, short of being a recruiting analyst, what is the upside of being a referee and umpire? What on earth is the upside? It's like a long snapper. There's just no winning. There's just levels of losing.
Yeah, I mean, even if you make the right call, 50% of the place is going to be mad at you. So
they don't get paid.
I don't know what the upside is, but they choose to do it, so they should choose to do it right.
And what? Well, we choose to do it, and we make money for it, but they don't make a ton of money. I mean, it's not a full-time job for any of those guys. They got to go back to work on Monday.
So are you excusing the missed call?
It's a horrible call. I'm just wondering why anybody would ever want to be an official. I don't know if this question's been asked.
I don't know.
Do you get out of it? What? You get no recognition. You get hatred from both sides.
Yep.
It's similar to a recruiting analyst, I guess.
They can run though. We're not all about the running.
But I mean, I get that. They really, it's such a horrible job that they have to protect their guys and make sure that they're not being called out. And yeah, they're going to miss calls. They miss calls like crazy. So here's my theory. Ready? And it's a conspiracy theory because I love conspiracy theories. Mm-hmm. The SEC is protecting the Iron Bowl. It's clear. Mm-hmm. Arkansas game, Ole Miss game. They want the Iron Bowl to be something that matters. And, a 2-3 Auburn team right now would be eliminated from, or 1-4, is what they should be, would be eliminated from any possibility of anything. So do you buy into the conspiracy theory that the SEC is protecting Auburn?
No, and here's why. Because what's better, having a bad Iron Bowl 1 year or having Auburn have a good record going into the Iron Bowl and then, which we all know is going to happen, be crushed by 55 points? That reflects even more poorly on the SEC.
Yeah, and I don't believe the conspiracy theory. I just made it up because I love conspiracy theories. But it sure does seem like Auburn's getting the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And for a team that's not playing well, Seth Williams started off great. He slowed down a little bit. Now he's fighting with his teammates. Tank Bigsby's been amazing as a true freshman, but he's probably wondering why did I come here? Yeah. Because, the defense has been disappointing. Recruiting is going horrible, but yet they are 3-2 and should be 1-4. 1-4. Okay, here's another question for you. 1-4. Gus fired?
It's tough. It's tough to say that just because of all of the pandemic issues that are going on. But I would say absolutely he would be gone. Yes.
Auburn was.
I don't know if they would fire him mid-season.
Oh, I think they can right away. I
But
think if you lost to Arkansas,
yeah,
the way they should have lost,
and then lost
Ole
Ole Miss.
Miss, I think they can him immediately. And his buyout's huge, but I think they have to because the fan base right now, the way recruiting's going, the way the team's playing is so disgusted with him. This is as bad as I've seen it for Auburn fans with Gus, and they've always wanted him sort of gone because nobody's happy with your head coach when you don't win, especially in the state of Alabama when Alabama's always winning. But yeah, I think if you go on, pandemic or not, I think there would be an interim head coach in there, and Gus would be gone, and somebody would start a GoFundMe page to pay off his buyout. But
You know who else should be gone? Someone that gave Gus Malzahn a $28 million buyout. I mean, how insanely ridiculous is that?
I don't understand it. There was the leverage of him going to Arkansas, because that was his
Great.
state and all that stuff. But I don't understand it. I think I'm trying, the world of sports is so amazing to me. Football players are the only ones that should have guaranteed contracts.
Yes.
Maybe hockey players because they take pucks to the mouth and stuff like that and they get injured. But, baseball players get these guaranteed deals, for $300 million or whatever. And Bobby Bonilla is still getting paid from a deal. And basketball players get these long, ridiculous deals that are guaranteed. And then you've got these coaches. So who's making the decision at the baseball level, to pay A-Rod whatever he made, $250 million with the Rangers and ended up with the Yankees, or who's paying these buyouts for these coaches who have no place to go? Is it just dumb decision making? Is it fear? Is it like bragging rights? Like, look, we inked our coach, man, and he's going nowhere, and his buyout's bigger than anybody else's. Is there any sort of bragging right?
Yes, I think it's complete bragging rights. I think Gus Malzahn takes Auburn to the national championship in year one, and everybody thinks he's the greatest thing, the most genius coach of all time. But the real truth about coaching, we all know it. We just don't want to say it publicly, but I will, and you're going to agree with me. They all do the same things. It's all the same systems. It's all the same offense and defense. There's no secrets to what Nick Saban is doing or whatever. It's all about execution and recruiting. That's all it's about. You get the better players, they do the defense better.
I disagree with you a little bit because I think there are coaches that make a difference. I don't think somebody else other than Dabo would be successful the way Clemson's been successful. Now, again, that has turned into recruiting, and it's turned into X's and O's. He's made some great hires, but
Sure.
to build a program from Clemsoning to 2 national championships is a tremendous job. And there are coaches, I think, that do a lot with nothing. Traditionally we've seen it once a year where a school just has a great year with a bunch of 3-stars. So, I get what you're saying. I do know Alabama will never be bad with Nick Saban in charge because recruiting just keeps rolling on.
Right.
And Auburn will never be good with Gus Malzahn again. They did go to the national championship game under him, and he did essentially win a national championship with Chiswick. But the buyouts are extremely confusing. I had a great point to make, and I forgot it.
Here's my point. Even the greatest coach of all time, Bill Belichick, struggled early in his career because he had no players. He's struggling this year because he has Cam Newton as his quarterback, and he doesn't have Tom Brady and Gronk anymore. It's players. It's all players. They all run the same systems. You don't see any variations of defenses. It's all the same stuff.
Nah, it's not. There's different defenses.
Well, there are, but it's all about execution and getting the right players in there. If Jared Goff and whoever else left the Rams, Sean McVay would not be a genius. If Pete Carroll didn't recruit well to USC and didn't have Russell Wilson, he wouldn't be a genius. They're not geniuses. They all do the same stuff. They all learn from each other. They all steal stuff from each other. Those people are very smart. I'm not saying all coaches are equal. I'm saying people that can execute and get the players are the ones who win.
I think it's also the head coaching job that is really not mentioned much is, keeping your team motivated together.
Sure.
As a team and a group. And that's, you got to be part psychologist. And I think that's a big part of it. So I think that's part of the success. And you have to be a great recruiter, obviously. But Dan Mullen's not a great recruiter. He's a great coach. So is Dan Mullen just the same guy as Gus Malzahn? Is that what you're saying to me?
No, what I'm saying is that there are great coaches, But those great coaches have players, and they have. Why did Dan Mullen take Mississippi State to #1? Was it because he had Dak Prescott, or was it because he could have done that without Dak Prescott? When the Golden State Warriors were bad this year, did Steve Kerr just become a horrible coach, or was it because Steph Curry and Klay Thompson weren't on the court? When Phil Jackson the greatest coach of all time, or did he have Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Kobe Bryant, and Shaq?
It's the chicken or the egg. So I know it's about players, and it's the Jimmys and Joes and not the X's and O's, but I don't think all coaches are considered equal. Segueing into, we have to talk about this. We talked about it yesterday. I talked about it yesterday with Willie, but we have to talk about this.
Okay.
Penn State, Indiana, because you're a Penn State graduate and you're such a homer for them. It's ridiculous. Thank goodness you have no impact on Penn State rankings at all, because they'd all be 5 stars. We know how you are.
That's not how I am at all.
Well, okay, so did they lose that game?
Well, they lost it, but they got screwed just like Ole Miss got screwed.
Okay, so
and if you argue anything other than that, I was on Twitter and I sent the picture to you and you ignored me on Twitter.
No, I didn't.
And someone said, no, they didn't get robbed because they should have beaten Indiana handily anyway. Well, the guy was down before the pylon. The ball touched the ground out of bounds before the pylon. They reviewed it and said it was inconclusive. That doesn't mean that they didn't get robbed. They still got robbed. They played a terrible game. They should have won by 3 touchdowns, but they still got robbed. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Penn State got robbed.
I did respond.
I ignored it.
I said your team should have lost anyways because they were stupid and didn't down the football and run the clock out, and Devin Ford, scored a touchdown. So, but I've seen so many different pictures of that. Now, here's what I think, and I don't want to go on too long about this because it's redundant to yesterday, but on the field that should have been called no score, right? It was just too close to see a guy stretch his arm from the 4-yard line and actually barely touch the pylon. It should have been called. And then they should have reviewed it, and then they wouldn't have been able to overturn it because there was no conclusive evidence. And then Penn State would have limped out of there. But my man, Coach Allen, went for it. Penn State blew the game, poor clock management. You can't feel sorry for them, and I know you don't.
No,
I've seen so many pictures of that where people crop out like the nose of the football. Have you seen these pictures? It's just like, remember Ohio State, Michigan a few years ago with the whole yard marker, the first down? I don't know what picture to trust. I have no idea if it's doctored or not. I mean, the woman from the what newspaper was that? State collegiate newspaper or something got the great angle picture of it.
Oh, the Center Daily Times.
Whatever, same thing, and it was a great picture, but it's been doctored so many times. I don't know what to think. So I just don't think. I don't think Penn State fans can complain about it because honestly, if you have an opportunity to run the clock out, and you should never be in that situation whatsoever, then
I don't understand running a play if the idea was to run the clock out and not to have him score. Why not just have Sean Clifford kneel the ball down? And Indiana had 1 timeout, wouldn't have mattered. Even if there were going to be a few seconds left on the clock, you kick the field goal, Indiana would have no timeout. You'd be up 24-20. They'd have to go the length of the field with no timeouts and like 15 seconds on the clock. Terrible clock management. Big mistake to even run the play. Just bad all over. Penn State deserved to lose that game, but they didn't lose the game.
Well, whatever. Penn State's 0-2 after this weekend.
Yeah, probably. Now,
they're done. That's it. They're out of the Big Ten picture. They're out of the national title picture after 2 games.
Well, if you're saying they're done if they're not in the national title picture, that's unfair to a lot of schools. But they are.
Fair to a lot of schools. I'm confused by that statement.
They're not done. The season's not done. They're not going to win the national championship. But
and they're not going to win the Big Ten either.
No, they're not going to. But they could still play in a major bowl game.
Yeah, who cares about that? You think they're going to make a New Year's 6 bowl? They're starting off 0-2.
If they go 10-2, losing early is somehow better than losing late, and I don't understand why.
They're not playing 12 games, Gorney. We've got a pandemic going on. I'm not sure if you've heard about it.
That's all I hear about.
System. So you better start stocking up. By the way, on toilet paper paper towels, hand sanitizer. People are freaking out here on the East Coast and starting to hoard that stuff again.
Great.
So I myself went on Jeff Bezos. I hit him up the other day. I personally have a relationship with him because I buy so much Amazon stuff. And I ordered 16 packs of toilet paper. So we in the Farrell household, we're going to be pooping stress-free.
You're hunkering down, huh?
And I've already got like 28 rolls. But yeah, I don't plan on leaving the house the entire winter. Once the clocks go back this weekend, I'm not leaving the house. That's it.
See, you're the problem, not the solution, Mike.
Yeah, let me be the solution and be, wiping my butt with a towel. No, I'm going to be the problem. Yeah, that was a good face. Listen, I got to take care of my tush. So, anyways, let's take a look a little bit more at that Ohio State-Penn State game. Ohio State defense didn't impress me that much early. I don't think they're as fast as they were.
And you're not impressed.
What's that? Yeah, well, they don't look as fast on defense, and they don't have that elite pass rusher that I'm expecting. And the secondary obviously doesn't have a coup to rely on, and so I think this can be an interesting game. Although Noah Kane got hurt, so I mean, I don't know if Penn State can hang with them, but I think Michigan can hang with them, and I think the state of the Big Ten is really, Wisconsin with Graham Mertz testing positive and his third string quarterback testing positive. They're in big trouble because there's 21 days and 58 cardiac tests that you have to take to get back on the field. Minnesota looks horrible. So nobody from the West. You just eliminate the West. And the East looks meh. Penn State, Michigan State, we always counted on as being that fourth team. They're horrible. It comes down to Ohio State and Michigan, and I think Michigan can give them a run. But I don't want to talk too much about that either because we talked about it yesterday. I want to talk about the Big 12.
Okay.
Because we've got a big game coming up. Are you excited for this big game or what?
I'm pumped.
Now, this is a chance for Gundy to get rid of Tom Herman or, as Gundy often does, lose to a team he shouldn't to keep that coach employed. Ingenious, right?
Yeah.
So who do you have?
I watched that Oklahoma State-Iowa State game, and Iowa State was controlling it early on. And Oklahoma State's big-time offense seems to be dialed back still, Doesn't it seem like Spencer Sanders isn't throwing to Tylan Wallace? They're not really going fast. They're not getting Hubbard on the outside as much as they used to, all the things that made them go up and down the field a little bit. They're relying a lot on that defense, which I think is actually pretty legit. The defense is good.
But we'll see how good they are against, a real offense. I mean, Iowa State's offense isn't impressive.
No.
Brock Purdy.
I don't know if Texas's offense is all that impressive, to be honest with you.
I think it's difficult to defend at times. They got some playmakers, and Ellinger is a good quarterback who can run the ball, and they'll be tough to defend. But you're right about the offense. Personally, I think Illingworth is better than Sanders. I mean, certainly as a passer.
Yeah, and just kind of driving the ball down the field a little bit. And the thing that I hesitate against this weekend in picking them is Ellinger just kind of has that refuse to lose mentality, which everybody loves and kind of compares him to Tebow in that sense. And so I think that's going to be interesting. I think Oklahoma State is by far the better team. I think they're the better coach team. I think they're just better all over the place. They don't have the better recruits. But I think that's going to be a close game. I think it could go either way. I would pick Oklahoma State, but I've been wrong before, and I hesitate to bet against Sam Ellinger in situations like this.
So if Texas wins, the Big 12 is eliminated from the playoff immediately. So there's a guy in Oregon named Mario Cristobal is rooting for Texas to win this because can 7-0 Oregon, and I'm already giving them 7 wins, can they, or do they play 8? They probably play. I mean, they'll be in the Pac-12 championship, so it's 8.
No, I think 7. I think they play 6 plus the Pac-12 championship, right?
It's such a small number that I was disgusted when I read it, and I didn't memorize it. But can an undefeated Pac-12 team slide in there?
I don't think so, and here's why. They're only playing Pac-12 teams, so 5 of those wins are going to be cakewalks. Okay, one big win. Okay, 6-0 gets them to the Pac-12 championship game. Beating Utah isn't going to thrill anybody. Would you rather a one-loss Florida? Well, here's the situation. You're going to have the problem that the SEC screwed themselves with is that you're going to have a 2-loss SEC East champion.
Absolutely. So that's why I'm asking about the Pac-12, because let's say Georgia beats Florida and then loses to Alabama, there's 2 losses. Let's say, and then there's 2 losses to Florida. Let's say Florida beats Alabama and then, beats Georgia and then loses to Alabama, because someone's going to lose to Alabama. You got 2 losses, so you just don't.
Or let's say Georgia beats Florida and then beats Alabama, because it's hard to beat the same team twice in the same season.
Not a prayer.
I know.
You still thinking JT and his limpy leg is going to rise up and be that 5-star quarterback that you put him right behind Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields? Is that what you think?
How about this? How about Notre Dame plays Clemson tough, and they take Notre Dame and Clemson?
Notre Dame's going to play them twice, though.
Yeah, they would.
And that's 2 beatings.
So maybe Oregon does get in.
Yeah, see? Go Ducks. And they, listen, I love the Pac-12 and all that stuff, and I can't wait for their football to be back, but they don't deserve it with the limited schedule. They don't deserve it with the late start. They don't deserve any of it. And Oregon's missing a lot of players. Their entire secondary opted out. Their best tackle opted out. So, and they've got questions at quarterback too. So I'm not saying it's easy for them to run the table. So it's going to be really interesting, because when you look at the playoff situation, okay, so you assume the Big 12 is going to be out because Oklahoma State's going to lose to somebody. But does a 1-loss Oklahoma State get in? Or does a 2-loss SEC team get in? Or is there going to be anybody, like let's say Michigan wins and then just loses to Ohio State, and then Ohio State drubs whoever? Would a 1-loss Michigan slide in there as the 4th team?
Or would a 2-loss Oklahoma, if they keep drilling people, get in?
No, their losses stink.
Yeah.
Kansas State's ranked, I know, and Iowa State is not really ranked anymore, but their losses stink. Those 2 losses are too bad to overcome, I think, personally. So, no, I don't think that's going to happen. But, or this is what you should do. Just have a 3-team playoff.
Or how about this? Are we giving Michigan too much credit for 2 of their touchdowns, essentially one coming on special teams that set up a score and one on a lucky defensive touchdown?
No.
Michigan's for real?
Michigan looked good. I really was impressed. And I think it's
their defense, man. Woo. We need to remember people like Devin Bush and Cam McGrone, undersized linebackers that go around and make a million plays.
We've said that.
Like Rajon Davis in this recruiting class.
Ever since the 2016 class where we had 10 5-star linebackers and 9 of them suck.
Yeah.
I'm open to anybody at linebacker who's good. I don't care about the size, but we're definitely scrutinizing that position a little bit more. Because again, the NFL draft, you get 1 linebacker taken very high, and then you get, probably 1 other linebacker or 2 other linebackers in the first round too. But yeah, the short guys, listen, just like quarterbacks, the short guys, Devin White is killing everybody in the NFL. And I remember when Devin White was a running back. I remember when Devin White
fullback
played in our 5-star challenge as a linebacker, and was so horrible. Like, couldn't cover anybody in space, couldn't move in space at all. Was so stiff that whoever had him on their team, I forget who was the manager of that team, was just like, he's killing me solo. And now look at him. He's a freak. And he's a shorter linebacker too. So, definitely shorter linebackers are going to get a look from us. But, back to the playoff situation, I think it's going to be like, let's do a 3-team. Let's make Clemson play in because their schedule sucks so bad. And let's make Ohio State play in because the Big Ten started so late. We'll give Alabama a bye. Clemson will croak Ohio State again. And then we'll have Clemson. Yeah, and then we'll have Clemson and Alabama again in the national championship game. So let's forget the 4th team, because the 4th team is just a sacrificial lamb anyways, right? It's like Michigan State that year. They made it.
Notre Dame.
Oh, now you're bringing the Irish in there. So the Irish, 6-22. You know what that means? That's the record of the teams they've played. The 5 teams they've played are 6-22 this season, and they're the number 4 team in the country.
Yeah, that's not the number 4 team in the country. I don't care what they did against Pitt. Joey Yellen was not having a good game, struggled. They scored 45 just to prove that they could score 45 against somebody.
Will Joey Yellen ever have a good game?
Doubtful.
I was at Under Armour that year. Were you? You weren't, right? I think I texted you.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I think I texted you. There were 3 Arizona State commitments at quarterback, and 2 of them were there. One was Jaden Daniels, who I liked a lot, and I think I texted you and I said, Joey Yellen is just horrible. Like one of the worst quarterbacks in an all-star game. Who is the kid who couldn't even throw the ball that went to USC that was at Under Armour that
Matt Fink.
Oh, my goodness. Now, again, he started a couple games at USC, right?
Yeah, out of necessity, I think, but not since then.
You know, we've got Wilton Spate. He's another one who's been awful, you know, at these games and stuff. But, yeah, Joey Yellen was awful. Notre Dame, you know, now the Notre Dame fans are saying, well, you wanted us to join a conference. We're joining a conference. Now you're bitching about our, you know, opponents, which I get. Listen, they're right. But it all comes down to Clemson. That's all that matters. If they stay close, then they're okay, but they won't.
I'll be shocked if that game is within 3 touchdowns.
And Clemson, of course, you know, struggled against Syracuse, and this is what they do. You know, one game every year. Like, remember when NC State missed that field goal a few years ago? And one game every year. I think Pitt beat them one year. They struggle against teams that they're not up for, don't care about.
Yeah.
And then when they get to the teams they want to beat, they put a drubbing on them. So Dabo's going to drub them there. Here's a question for you. Speaking of Clemson, Etienne is great, but who's the best running back in the country? Is it Najee? Is it Etienne? Is it Chuba Hubbard now after his
No.
Chuba Hubbard after his, you know, he had a solid game and starting to come around? Is it somebody else? Who is it?
It's Najee Harris, and here's why. I saw a stat box on the TV from Fox Sports. I'll give them credit. That Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram were the last 2 running backs to win the Heisman Trophy. They're both from Alabama. Najee Harris has better stats than both of them at the same time. He has 14 rushing touchdowns. And they've already played Georgia, and they've already played Tennessee, which is supposed to have a decent enough, you know, defense. And they've already played Texas A&M. I mean, he's going to be 25, maybe 30 touchdowns on the season. It's going to be tough to not have him in New York. And it's tough to say. Now, he's not the fastest. He's not the most dynamic. It's going to be interesting to see how he translates to the NFL, although we thought the same thing about Derrick Henry, and he's doing phenomenally well. Najee is not as fast and sudden as he used to be in high school, and he's not as fast as sudden as Hubbard or Etienne. But, man, he can churn out the yards. He's tough to bring down, and he gets in the end zone.
Here's the problem. He won't be able to get over 2,000 yards, which is a big marker because the schedule doesn't allow him to do that. And he's got a quarterback that's putting up numbers as well. Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram did not have quarterbacks that put up huge numbers. They were run-based Alabama football teams. And now you've got, you know, Mac putting up crazy numbers, and they could, you know, sort of knock each other down a little bit in the votes. So I think Najee is also the best running back because people don't understand how good he is at catching the ball too. And I know Etienne catches the ball well, but Najee Harris is the well-rounded. No running back can block. All right, let's just put that to rest.
Right.
I don't care. You know, they always say that's the, you know, you're 3-down back. And a 3-down back is also a guy who can pass protect and also catch the ball. Well, they all suck at blocking. You know, I mean, even the best blockers like Ezekiel Elliott get blown up. Saquon Barkley get blown up. So in all the facets of the game, running, you know, body lean, balance, falling forward, being difficult to tackle, he can outrun people. He can catch the ball. He can do everything. And I think he also has the body, you know, to handle the durability issues you need to handle in the NFL. And he doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires because he's a fifth-year guy. Isn't he a fifth-year guy or fourth?
I think he's fourth, but he had guys ahead of him, yeah.
Yeah, and he's only really broke out last season and this season, so I think it's him. But I always like asking those positional questions because it's always a good argument. Like,
now, here's a good question for you, Mike.
Go ahead.
Cam Akers and Najee Harris were in the same recruiting class.
Mm-hmm.
We had healthy discussions about which one was the number one running back in the country. I think off of college stats, it will be that Najee Harris was, and by draft position. But if Cam Akers went to another school where they had an offensive line with 5 non-stiffs,
Mm-hmm.
would he have been what we thought he was going to be, which one writer in Mississippi called him the next Walter Payton?
Yeah, I think he obviously had a great career at Florida State despite the offensive line problems. I think he was drafted in the second round by the Rams, or maybe the third round. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a very good debate. You and I were both on the Najee Harris side of things. There were others that were on the Cam Akers side of things. They had him 1 and 3 in the country for running backs. That's very high. But yeah, Cam Akers go to Alabama, he's going to have to wait his turn, just like Najee did. That's just the way it is. But if Cam Akers goes to, like Ole Miss or something like that, the team's going to be average, but he's going to put up some monster crazy numbers. Now, again, their offensive line isn't great either, but better than Florida State. I think he chose the team, barring, short of the smaller FBS schools or some of the lower Power 5. He chose the school which had the perfect storm for being horrendous along the offensive line, more so than I've ever seen a power program. So that's a good question, but I would still, in the long run, take Najee. But there was a while there, man, where it's just like, uh-oh. Like, we were on a streak of number ones. It wasn't good.
Yeah. And I've said this before, and we've talked about this, is it's not hard to put somebody at number one, but it's hard to take them off number one. Like, we can move somebody from 2 to 6 or 3 to 5 or 5 to 2, but that number one spot has something about it that once you're there, it's hard to come off of it.
Well, we have two in a row that were awful. Cowart and Hand, not awful, but not great choices as number one. Like, Hand ended up being a 4th round pick and waited his turn to play and moved inside at Alabama. Didn't have the superstar career we expected. And then Byron Cowart, went to Auburn, transferred to Maryland. He ended up being a 4th round or 5th round pick, and he's with the Patriots now. It's funny because he's still so upset. He got on Twitter, right? And he's not verified yet, but he was off Twitter and he got back on Twitter. And it said, your contact, Byron Cowart, is on Twitter. So I was like, okay, this sounds legit because Twitter knows my contacts. And I followed him. He followed right back. I said, is this really Byron? And he said, yep, you're number one bust. And I knew it was him. And then I said, man, you're in the NFL. You're doing well. He had COVID, but he's recovered now. You're making money. No response. He's so upset.
Yeah, good. I like it. I like that kind of fire.
Yeah, we liked this fire, though, before college. And that fire turned out to be nothing. Remember? He's running
Would you like to use
rushing moves in the hotel and all that stuff, but
it turned out to
and that's we bumped Rosen out for that. It was a top 10 pick who's now career is done in the NFL, but that still looks better. But yeah, we had 2, but now we're on a streak. So
we are on a streak.
Trevor, who the hell was Najee, Trevor, Stingley. Rashawn Gary was before that, and he was a 1st rounder. He's playing linebacker at 280 pounds.
Isn't that amazing? Knowing what he looks like in person?
Crazy. So, I think we're on a good streak here. So 2014 was rough, 2015 was rough, but 2016, 17, 18, 19, looking good. Brzee is off to a good start at Clemson already, although Miles Murphy looks a little bit better, but we'll see.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe Miles Murphy was the pick there.
I thought, and this is stupid, but I thought Miles Murphy was a little too mild-mannered to even be top 5. And I will tell you this. It's because of the glasses.
Well, I'll tell you this, too. Miles Murphy had that thing where he turned it on when he got on the field. Similar to number 1, 2021, Corey Foreman, who is probably the nicest person you'll ever meet off the field, and then can turn it on when he gets on the field. But it is a concern. It is a concern.
Well, he was so nice, and, he didn't really dominate, like, when he was put up against the best players, like when he put him against the best left tackle in the country at a camp or something, he didn't really dominate. And so mild-mannered and had the glasses and all. And
the glasses,
but Solomon Thomas had glasses too. And
Deshaun Hand had glasses.
Yeah, he didn't wear them all the time though.
Would you like to use this podcast time to apologize to everyone for not putting Myles Garrett ahead of Deshaun Hand, although someone else on this podcast recommended such after the game?
But you all know the story behind that. I've told you 1,000 times.
You fell in love with Deshaun Hand and refused to listen to people?
No, this goes way up higher than me, bro.
Oh.
You've heard the story, right?
I have heard the story, yes.
Yeah, so what am I going to do? Listen.
You answer to people too, Mike.
People think I run Rivals, right? I'm on Insta with all the kids now. I'm building my Insta.
There you go.
Which you should do, too. It's a lot of work. Yeah. And the kids are like, ooh, shut up, Gramps, and all this other stuff. And then there's people that come in there and defend me, these young kids, like they're 20 years old or whatever. Dude, he created Rivals.
Yeah.
I think I started it from scratch. They think I'm like, Jim Heckman or really more to the point Shannon Terry, who are, I don't know if Heckman's a millionaire anymore, but Shannon Terry's a millionaire because he's a genius. He built the subscriber. I was just a cog, means to an end. I was the talent, and I have bosses, and they usually don't push their agendas on me for anything. But There are certain times where an agenda is pushed. So having Myles Garrett number 2 isn't so bad.
No, not so bad.
In hindsight, it looked bad. But at least Deshaun Hand didn't slug anybody over the head with a helmet.
Right. Also true. So
I've got that going for me. Speaking of rankings and recruiting, a lot of the Auburn fans were like, Kool-Aid McKinstry should be a 5-star. You guys hate Auburn. You always do this. But we dropped Tank Bigsby from a 5 to a 4, and that was against my better instincts last year. Because if you remember on numerous calls, I felt that Tank was the best. But then he started running a lot of East-West stuff.
Yeah.
And Chad Simmons, our Southeast guy, had seen the same thing where he's just trying to make too much happen. And It wasn't that North-South big guy. But what a mistake that was. I mean, I'm already kicking myself.
Yeah. I mean, he's clearly taken over the backfield there. He's going to be the guy there for the next 2 years. He's going to put up big numbers. Hopefully you would think he would. It looks like a 5-star running back. And that's the thing though, but we haven't been hesitant about naming 5-star running backs, but we should be. Yeah. And then Tank Bigsby is a guy that should have been, but we didn't because we had too many 5-star running backs.
Well, that's just our luck. But it's changing this year. And is Zach Evans even playing?
Zach Evans caught 5 passes for TCU against the Oklahoma Sooners last week, but he is not running the ball all that much yet.
It's all right. At least he's playing, though. But we got to, this is going to be 2020 class is going to be the year of the running back bust, although Kendall Milton looks good. Whereas 2016 was the year of the linebacker bust. And you learn things after that. So Tank should have been a 5-star. And next time I'm going to stick with my instincts. But Auburn fans felt we dropped him because he committed to Auburn, which is not true. And now they think Kool-Aid is going to be a 5-star because he committed to Alabama instead of Auburn, which I don't see him as a 5-star prospect. But, we'll see how it shakes out. But there's always these conspiracy theories. But, Kool-Aid to Alabama, Jeremiah Williams to Florida.
Yeah, it's big.
Lassiter to Georgia. It's getting ugly there. And I think we're starting to see a little bit of a shift. And this is the shift I see in the SEC. Alabama's still there. Georgia's still there, although they're dropping down a little bit from the last few years. I mean, they won it 3 years in a row. Florida is creeping up there. And that's the shift I see. I see the Gators, who have a tough game against Missouri this week because they haven't practiced for a while and had the old COVID shutdown. But I see the Florida Gators rising in the East and eventually overtaking Georgia. Am I crazy?
Eventually overtaking Georgia. Wow, that's a big statement, as Donald Trump would say.
As early as next season. Not this year. It could be this year because Trask is good. The offense is good. The defense stinks, though, so I think Georgia will be okay. But as early as next season, I could see Florida winning the SEC East.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him winning it this year. I mean, there was something on the main board that I was reading, amongst other things.
Why are you on there?
And I don't even know if it was there. I think it was a book I was reading that said someone 50 years ago said defense wins championships, and that just hasn't really necessarily been the case. I mean, offense, you have to put up big numbers. LSU won the national championship last year because of offense, not because of defense, really. I mean, they just outscored everybody. Oklahoma's in the Final Four every year because of offense. Ohio State has both, but their offense matters more. So I'm not entirely sure that winning the SEC means having the better defense. Georgia has a better defense than Florida, but I think Florida could win that game. They could outscore them. They could, if Georgia can't move the ball and put it in the end zone, I think they could. I think they could beat them this year. I think Georgia's recruiting better than Florida, but I do see what you're saying. Georgia has come off just a slight bit. Maybe some guys have been overrated over the last few years, and Florida's coming up. Now, here's the big statement. Dan Mullen's a better coach than Kirby Smart.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, there's
no doubt? No doubt.
No doubt. I mean, when you talk about in-game coaching,
yeah,
there are certain guys that are not great in-game guys, and Kirby Smart has not proven to be a very good in-game coach. And I'm talking about adjustments, things
right.
like that. And Dan Mullen has proven to be that guy, so I feel confident there. But I just don't know, if the window is closed for Georgia, and it closed, with Devonta Smith catching that pass and Jake Fromm, pushing Justin Fields out of the nest. And, there was such an opportunity to win national championships, and the recruiting classes were number one for 3 straight years. And I think, this year wasn't a chance, because obviously they were going to bring in a transfer quarterback, and now they're starting to form a walk-on. I just don't know if they're going to, Brock Vandegrift's a very good quarterback. He's their 2021 5-star, but, then they have trouble putting pieces around their quarterbacks. Wide receiver recruiting hasn't been great, and I just don't know if they're ever going to break through there, whereas I could see Florida doing that. If Florida continues to recruit well, I mean, they got Jeremiah Williams away from Auburn. They're going to get Sam McCall tomorrow, which is Wednesday, probably, 2022 kid.
Yeah.
I think they're going to get Terry Arnold, who I believe is vastly underranked.
Yeah.
That now that there's been some shifts in our Florida coverage, I'm going to change some stuff. And Terry Arnold is a very, very good football player. So I think Florida's on the right track there. In the West, okay, LSU broke through, and now they look horrible. I don't know who the number 2 team is going to be there. Is it going to be Texas A&M? I mean, can Jimbo sustain this with, quarterbacks like Kellen Mond? And he was a good player, but just not developing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's still going to be a mishmash. I mean, in the East, there's Kentucky's a tough out, but they're an out. Tennessee continues to underdeliver.
Well, let's talk about that. Vols fans want Jeremy Pruitt fired.
Well, this is
15% of them do. The irrational fans want him fired. Because he lost to Kentucky, and now he's lost to Georgia, which they were supposed to lose to, and he's lost to Alabama, which they were supposed to lose to. Prior to that, he won 9 straight games.
Right, and they love him.
He's a massive upgrade over Butch Jones as far as an in-game coach and a player development guy, and I think it's ridiculous. Like, come on.
So teams get into these cycles where they give a coach 3 years. And part of me says, yes, you have 3 years. You have two of your own recruiting classes. And if you can't show vast improvement during that time, you've been paid well over $15 million by that time to do it. You should show improvement. Another part of me says, why do you think the coach previous to you was fired? It's because the culture there is probably terrible. People aren't listening. No, everyone wants to do their own thing. And it takes a while to flush that out of your system. So you can do that by forcing people out of the program, which is sort of frowned upon because these are college student athletes who aren't paid. Or it takes 4 or 5 recruiting classes. And that means struggling on the field for that amount of time, having a bright spot here or there, and then starting to show some success. Jeremy Pruitt has done that, absolutely. I brought up this stat last week, probably unfairly. Butch Jones and Jeremy Pruitt basically have the same record through 28, 29 games, but they look like different teams on the field.
Yeah.
Tennessee's competing. They're getting in people's faces. They're battling. What are you going to do about Jared Guarantano being a quarterback? And he was okay this past weekend, but in big games, he folds. They don't have enough playmakers. The offensive line actually probably should be playing better. They got pushed around by Alabama.
No, that's an example of individual stars not coming together as a unit, and
Yeah.
Michigan's an example of, you know, Mayfield is the star, but a bunch of guys that really do play together but don't have the same accolades. So I agree with you on the offensive line for the Vols.
So you got to give you if you want to win eventually, you got to give a long stretch of time. People wanted James Franklin fired at Penn State after 3 years. Look at what he's done. They have the same record as LSU over the last 5 years. So, you have to give people time. Now, this is the trick, and this is why ADs make the big money. At some point, you have to cut the cord. Will USC ever be really good under Clay Helton? Probably not. Is Tom Herman maybe the right fit at Texas? I don't know. He's been underwhelming. Is that ever going to change there? Or is he going to continue to lose to Oklahoma? Is he still going to lose guys to Texas A&M now with Jimbo there? But I'm sure people are getting itchy about Jimbo at Texas A&M. But in 2 or 3 years, I think that team would probably be the one that emerges in the SEC West.
Yeah, we'll see. Funniest things you've read on the message board this week. It's a new thing. Oh, well, before we go, let's do our overrated, underrated. So this week, did you see anybody that you saw play in college football that was massively underrated this weekend?
Massively underrated?
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank. I have to pull up the games. I need to do more preparation for.
No, I spring stuff on you because it's more fun to be. I don't know. It's just more fun. So I got a guy for you. Ready?
Okay, let's talk about him.
Michael Barrett. Did you hear all that, by the way?
Yeah, right. I did.
Well, this is these websites that do autoplay video. It's awful.
Yeah, that's awful.
I mean, it happens on every website, adult or not. It's really annoying to me. So, Michael Barrett, 5.63 star, looked awesome for Michigan. So he's my guy that I'm like, okay, this guy's going to be much better. And then I'm trying to think of an overrated guy.
Overrated guy.
Yeah, somebody. I'm just trying to think of the games like who looked horrible. That was a highly ranked player. I mean, I don't want to go Bo Nix every week.
Yeah, I know that's what I'm going to say. You can go him every week.
Well, I'm trying to think like what were the big games this past week. So we'll get back to that. But I do think Barrett deserved a shout out. And then where was it? Oh, dumbest things you've read in the message board. So here's a couple. Ready?
Okay.
All right. One fan base said because Greg Schiano beat who did he beat?
Mel Tucker.
Mel Tucker because he beat Michigan State and he's 1-0 at Rutgers. That he was the guy that they should have hired at Tennessee. So stupid.
Yeah.
So dumb. Greg Schiano would be a colossal failure in the SEC. He's a failure at Tampa Bay. He could do the Jersey thing, but what? I mean, he had one good season, and that's it. So Rutgers, we all know, is going to finish with probably 2 or 3 wins, and that was one of them. But
I will say, though, that Michigan State's got a lot of problems. Oh, my God.
They got a lot of problems for sure. Yeah, they stink. But to say that, get rid of Jeremy Pruitt, we should have hired Greg Schiano. I mean, come on. Ridiculous. One win. The other one I read on a message board for Nebraska was that somebody said they were going to sleep well after the Ohio State loss because they saw improvement in the team.
Okay.
52-17. And
yeah, this is the scary thing, and we kind of broached this in Fact or Fiction this week. I'm sure everyone listening read that.
Of course.
That's the expectation now at Nebraska? You look good for a quarter, then you get walloped.
Sleep well.
And now people are happy about that? I don't know. I mean, that seems...
I don't think about happy, but sleeping well. Not having a fitful, unrestful sleep. Because
do you think they beat Wisconsin with Wisconsin's 4th string quarterback?
No.
I don't either.
Wisconsin beats Purdue, and I think they beat Nebraska. I think they lose to Michigan, but I think they beat those 2 teams even without a quarterback because they could still get a great defense and they could run the ball. So, no, they're not going to beat them. I mean, I did see improvement in Nebraska, as far as athleticism and want to on offense.
Yeah.
And they were really hyped up in the first quarter of that game, and they looked like they were on the same page with Ohio State, which is why I worry about the Ohio State defense because they look kind of slow. But no, I'm not. I'm never, ever, ever. I don't care who I'm a fan of. I'm never sleeping better if I lose 52-17. I'm just not.
Right.
First of all, I'm not affecting my sleep at all, whether we win or lose. Those days are gone for me. I mean, I used to be that way, but now I don't care. Couldn't care less.
Here's a tough situation though for Nebraska, Mike. Mike Riley got fired in his third year by winning 500, 50-50.
Yeah.
Scott Frost is winning 36% of his games.
They're not getting rid of Scott Frost. I got a better one for you. Willie Taggart got fired in the second year at Florida State.
And they just lost 48-16 to frickin' Louisville.
If Mike Norvell has similar lack of success, there's going to be a lot of talk that Willie didn't get enough of a chance. You remember with Ty Willingham and Charlie Weiss?
Sure.
They had similar starts, and they gave Charlie a 10-year guaranteed contract, and Willingham was gone after 3 years. Taggart it's unheard of to fire a coach in his second year.
Yeah.
But if Norvell's team sucks this bad, they got to fire him in the second year too, right? I mean, how do they justify not? That one's worse than Frost because Frost he's an alum, he's a former player. The fan base loves him, they believe in him, blah blah blah. But I think Florida State's going to be very interesting next season.
I think the only justification that they can make, and I don't know if people will buy it, is that Mike Norvell was successful before coming to Florida State. Willie Taggart had a losing record. Now, he did turn around Western Kentucky and South Florida to an extent.
Right.
But he had a losing record coming there. So they were taking a flyer on Willie Taggart to turn that program around. Mike Norvell was an established guy at Memphis, had proven that they could be sort of that that team that could play in the playoff or be a New Year's Day kind of bowl team. So, but that doesn't excuse 48-16 against Louisville. That is complete lack of effort.
I'm saying this. If Mike Norvell, and I like Mike Norvell, they're very, very nice to me over the years from his days at Arizona State and Memphis and now at Florida State, and he's a nice person. And I think he's a good coach. If he gets one game more than Willie Taggart with a worse record, it is just completely unfair.
Yeah.
I just think Florida State is putting themselves in a very bad position. Now, again, they had to get rid of Taggart because things were just awful, but things are worse now. And yes, he inherited this mess, and yes, Taggart inherited a mess from Jimbo because Jimbo just stopped recruiting and knew he was out, but they cannot let him. And that's unfortunate for Mike Norvell. Oh, of course, it's not unfortunate because his buyout's probably what, $18 million? Like, I say unfortunate, but if my buyout at Rivals were $18 million and they fired me tomorrow, I'd be dancing down my little street here, so excited. So before we go, because we've got a big meeting at 2. Now I've got a technology meeting. You've got an analyst meeting. So we've got different worlds we're heading into here, but we've got meetings.
Oh yes, it's already coming up on that hour.
TV, Ozark. I'm in season 3. His wife is starting to get a little bit shark-like, and it's improving the show itself.
Yeah.
It's still inconceivable that he can keep the cartel from killing him and the Kansas City mob from killing him and the Snells from killing him. And, but it's getting better. But I need another show to watch because 90 Day the Other Way I do watch, and it's awful. It's unwatchable. I really can't stick with it anymore because I hate all of them. I want them all to break up and fail.
Yeah.
What are you watching?
You have to get into The Bachelorette. Very good season. Very strong.
The oldest Bachelorette ever, right?
That's what happens tonight. She gets called the oldest Bachelorette ever, and then she snaps. She's clearly in love with Dale, but is trying to drag this show on for the next 6 months.
How old is she?
39.
That's not old. I mean, for a Bachelorette, I guess it is, but I don't know. I'm not watching that. No. You know what starts this week? Superstore. No. Tremendous sitcom.
I don't watch shows. Oh, you know what else starts this week is This Is Us tonight.
I don't watch that. It's too
great show.
It is a great show, I've heard, but it's too teary and there's too many like emotional episodes. Another emotional episode of This Is Us. Screw that. I don't want that.
We also watch A Million Little Things. Terrible show. Oh,
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
watch it. That's crazy. But we watch it every week.
you still watch it every week.
Well, 90 Day Fiance the other way is horrendous, and I was just watching it again.
I
as
refuse to
always.
watch that show.
Yeah, well, you're smart. Don't. And then there's going to be some spinoffs coming up that I'm not going to watch. I don't watch The Family Chantel. I refuse to. I don't watch Darcy and Stacy. I refuse to. I just listen. Just give me Happily Ever After and whatever.
Yeah, I just want 2 hours of stupid 90 Day Fiance a week. I don't need to get into, everybody's offshoot show.
All right, let's end this. Follow Adam Gorney at Adam Gorney on Twitter. Follow me at Rivals Mike on Twitter as well, and follow me at Rivals Godfather on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, but I'm not dancing. But I am making a social media play. I'm going to be a big, big star on social media. So that's it. Goodbye, Gorney.
All right, bye.
Bye.